What are tissues? So we've said the tissues are um, a group of cells, that are in close proximity and performing one similar function or performing a single common goal is what we are calling tissues. So these guys are the ones that are grouping different cells, forming different tissues to perform one single functions, and they are connected with the intercellular junctions that we've talked about. Now we have to talk about the types of these tissues. What types of tissues do we find in the body? So the tissues in the body are generally divided into four. There are four basic types of tissues in the human body. There's what we call epithelial tissue, which covers the body, lines the cavities of the body, and composes glands. I'm sure you know what glands are. There's what we call connective tissue, which is just by its name, you can tell to say this is responsible for connecting and supporting the structures of the body and providing structural support and binding organs together. So different organs, how are different organs bound together? It's due to what we call connective tissue. But there are some other types of special connective tissue, such as blood. Blood is connective tissue, but its job is not necessarily to connect or support mechanically the body structures, but it has another special job. But it's also another type of special connective tissue. And we have the muscle tissue. Muscle tissue that has unique capabilities of contraction and relaxation. So the contraction and relaxing of muscle tissues, which are going to provide movement in the body and also in the heart. The heart is also composed of muscle tissue, and it is responsible for supply of nutrients and oxygen to all parts of the body. So you can see how important each type of tissue is from what we're discussing. We also have what we call the nerve tissue. Nerve tissue, another very important tissue. Why? It's because it is the one which is containing the specialized cells that we call nerves, and these are the guys that are going to be actively involved into a response to stimuli. We talked about sensitivity of an organism. How is sensitivity of an organism going to be achieved? It's due to, or it's through what we call the nerve tissue, because these are the guys that are going to be coordinating each and every movement that the body is going to perform. It's through what we call the nerve tissue. So they are going to be detecting, processing, and coordinating information. So they will detect the stimuli, send it to the center of control, process, send a response, and the effector organ should initiate an action. That's due to what we call the nerve tissue. Now, out of these four tissues, we're going to look at all of them in detail. And which one are we going to start with? We're going to start with the first one, which is the epithelial tissue. Okay, so from what we've been discussing, what do you think is epithelial tissue? Okay, so we've already discussed to say the defining feature of epithelial tissue is that it plays a role in covering surfaces and the lining of cavities. It is forming the entire surface of the body. So each and every surface in the body that you can think of, whether it is in the mouth, on your mouth, inside your mouth, on your skin, you in the vagina, for example, everything is made up of epithelia. There is epithelia that is covering the lining of each and every surface of the body. So that's one of the signature functions of this guy that we call epithelial tissue. So it also protects. So just by it being on top of the skin, it is protecting you from foreign bodies. And if we look at the integumentary system, we're going to notice that the skin is actually made up of epithelium. the epidermis, the dermis of the skin is made up of different epithelial cells. Sensation also, when you touch on top of your skin, they are going to find that you're able to feel that something is touching me. So which means the epithelial cells or the epithelial tissue that is on top of the skin is able to sense that it is in contact with something, or something is happening on its surface, because it is having one of the properties that is sensation, or one of the function which is sensation. Even diffusion, we've said, all the surfaces in the body are lined by epithelia, which means even the surfaces of the stomach, the surfaces of the intestines are all lined by epithelial tissue. And diffusion and digestion, diffusion and absorption is taking place in the stomach. Even diffusion of different substances through different surfaces is all taking place through this type of tissue that we are calling epithelial tissue. Even secretion of substances, I've already explained absorption and excretion. Excretion, the skin is removing sweat. That's all, or that's also one of the important functions of the epithelial tissue. Secretion. Secretion, we're going to, or in your anatomy, you're going to talk about a special type of epithelia, which we call glandular epithelia. So this is the type of epithelia that is forming different glands in the body. You can talk about sweat glands, we can talk about different glands, etc. glands that you can talk about in the body. So long as they secrete something, those guys are made up of epithelial tissue. The breasts, that milk that they secrete, all that is due to glandular epithelia. There's epithelia in the breast that is responsible for secretion of that milk. That milk is a secretion from types of epithelia known as glandular epithelia. If you look at your armpits are usually very prone to sweating. They are always sweating. It's because they are a type of epithelial tissue that we call glandular epithelia. So those are some of the functions of this type of tissue that is called epithelial tissue. Now, we can actually classify epithelial tissue into different types. And how are we coming up with those types of epithelia? It's due to two different categorization. Or how are we going to systematically classify epithelia? It's due to two different criteria, or two primary criteria, of which, what is that? We have what we call number of cells. Okay, it's just here. So we classify epithelia based on what we call the number of cells, or the number of layers, sorry, not the number of cells. The number of layers is going to help us classify what type of epithelia you're talking about, whilst we can also classify it using the shape of the topmost layer of cells. The shape of the topmost layer of cells that you're talking about. So how do we classify epithelia based on the number of cells, or the number of layers rather? How do you think we can classify epithelia using the number of layers? Okay, so this is just if we classify depending on the number of layers, we can either call that type of epithelia simple epithelia, or if not, it is stratified epithelia, like that. So if you have a single layer of cells in epithelial tissue, we're going to say that is simple epithelium. If the layer of cells that you're having is a single layer, we're going to call that simple epithelium. Whilst if the number of layers is a lot, we're going to call that stratified epithelium. So which means if it's more than one, at least one, which means you have two or more layers of cells in your epithelial tissue, we're going to say you're having what? Stratified epithelium here. It's either it's stratified when you have more than one layer, or it's a simple epithelium when you have a single layer. So mostly you're going to find that a simple epithelium is specialized for processes where a thin barrier is required, such as absorption in areas that are responsible for absorption, secretion, and also filtration. Those guys are going to require what? A single layer of epithelium, which means you're going to have a simple epithelium, whilst stratified epithelium is primarily adapted to protection. So it is going to protect areas that are subjected to mechanical stress or chemical stress. So when you have more than one layer which is stratified, you're going to find it mostly in areas that are subjected to stress, because its main job is to protect. What about the classification based on the shape of the topmost layer of cells? The shape of the topmost layer of cells, so of cells rather. So based on this criteria of classification, we have three subtypes of epithelia. So if we have cells that are thin, flat, and irregular in shape, we're going to describe those guys as squamous epithelia. I even have a diagram here. Squamous epithelia. If you look at the shape of these cells that you are seeing here, it's the same as you've just broken, or you want to fry eggs. You've just gotten your egg, you crack it. I don't know the correct term you use for breaking eggs onto a pan. People use fancy names just for to mean breaking an egg on a pan. But if you break one, then you put it on a pan without stirring it, you're going, or without mixing it, without tempering with it, you're going to see that it is going to have a flat shape where you have the yolk on the middle. The yolk is acting like the nucleus of the cell here, but it's flat and irregular in shape. So that resemblance is the same as this guy that we're calling squamous epithelia. Then if we have cuboidal cells that are plump and roughly square-like in shape, they are cube-like in shape, we're going to say that is cuboidal epithelia, like this. Then if you have these guys that are looking skinny and representing columns, they're looking like rectangles that are standing, we're going to call them columnar epithelia, like that. So if it's a single layer of columnar of cuboidal epithelia, we're going to say that is what? That is simple cuboidal epithelia. If it's a single layer of squamous cells, we're going to say that is simple squamous epithelia. If it's a single layer of columnar cells, we're going to say that is simple columnar epithelia. And we have this special type that I've included here, which is a stratified epithelia. So mostly this stratified epithelia is squamous, which means you're going to find a lot of layers, but the topmost layer, or the topmost layer, is going to be what? Is going to be stratified, or what can I say? You have a lot of layers, but the topmost layer is stratified. You're going to say, or the topmost layer is squamous rather. You're going to say that is what? That is this stratified squamous. You can also say stratified cuboidal. If there are a lot of layers, what's the topmost layer is cuboidal. You can say squamous columnar. If you have a lot of layers, what's the topmost layer is columnar, and so forth and so on. So I've explained all of them here. of simple squamous, simple cuboidal, simple columnar, pseudostratified columnar, stratified squamous, stratified columnar, and the transitional epithelia. So this is a special type of epithelia which consists of multiple layers of cells, but the surface cells change from rounded to flat to permit extension or expansion when needed. Transitional epithelium is found in the urinary bladder, renal pelvis, and the ureter. So this type of epithelium or epithelial tissue, the transitional epithelia, is just found in areas that are actually experience expansion, which means there will be expansion and relaxation, such as the bladder. So the bladder will be relaxed at some point, but when it starts to get filled with urine, it starts to expand. So to permit that expansion, we have a special type of columnar epithelia that we call transitional epithelia. Like this, even the renal pelvis and ureters are also going to find this same type of epithelial tissue. What about these other ones now, like simple squamous? We already know what simple squamous epithelia is, but where are they predominantly found? They are found in the lining of the cavities such as the mouth, blood vessels, and the lungs. You are going to find the simple squamous epithelia. What about simple cuboidal? These are found mostly in glands, ducts, and the portion of the kidney tubules. So I've already explained everything here. I'm just trying to tell you where these guys are found, because you can't tell me you don't know what simple cuboidal is. I'm just explaining what simple cuboidal is. What about simple columnar? These are found mostly in places that are lining the intestine and the gallbladder. What about pseudostratified columnar? This type of epithelium appears to be composed of layers of cells, but in fact composed of just a single layer of cells. So this pseudostratified, I don't know if okay, I'll show you a diagram at the end where there's you can think as if it's many layers of columnar cells, but it's just a single layer. But what is different is the location of the nucleus. You're going to find that one nucleus of this cell is there, the next one has its nucleus on top, this one has its nucleus on top again, the other one down, such that it makes you think as if you have a lot of layers, whilst in actual sense it's just a single layer of columnar cells. So these guys are found mostly where? In the nasal cavity, the bronchi, and the trachea. What about stratified squamous? Make up the skin, lining of the mouth, and the esophagus. We have stratified columnar found in the mammary ducts and the epididymis. Transitional, I've already explained where these guys are found. Then we have what we call glandular epithelium. So this is made up of columnar and cuboidal cells, and they become specialized as glands. I've already explained, and these are capable of secreting substances such as enzymes, hormones, mucus, sweat, and saliva. Examples include salivary glands. Those are glandular epithelia. Sweat glands, those are glandular epithelia, and also adrenal glands, which are responsible for the secretion of the hormone adrenaline. Those are glandular epithelia. So we can see how important epithelial tissue is, and we've actually managed to discover to classify epithelia based on the two types that we've talked about, which is the number of layers of cells and also the shape of the topmost layer of cells. So these are the types of epithelia that have included there, which finalizes the first type of tissue, or the first type of basic tissue that is in the body, which is the epithelial tissue. Okay.